Work. What's the Torah's approach to work? Torah's approach to retirement. So does the Torah believe in retirement? Does the Torah believe in working hard? So what is that like? What is that all about? So let's try to discuss this and come up with some answers. The tribe of Levi. When we look at the tribe of Levi teach us and tell us about how to approach work and how to approach retirement. So the tribe of Levi became a dedicated tribe to Hashem. What made them the tribe that is dedicated to service of God? Why them? So if we go back to the Yaakov and the word that Yaakov had with Esav when he went back from Lavan's home. So we know Lavan, when he went to Lavan's home, when he left his house, Beersheba, and he went to Lavan's home, he said that, God, if you bless me and help me succeed building up my family and my people, Jewish people all came from his wives, and he helped me succeed financially because he went through the Jordan River with nothing, then I am going to tithe everything to you. So when he came back, after he had all of his 4 wives, 12 children, actually 13 children, 12 boys and 1 girl. We have 11 boys and 1 girl. Yaakov had 12 boys and 1 girl. So when we went to, when he came back with all of his children, the angel of Esav that met him and fought him asked and said, he went to God and he said, God, Yaakov said that everything that he will have, he will tithe to you. And he didn't tithe any of his children to you. So Yaakov said that I'm going to have 4 children from my 4 wives, each of their firstborn child dedicated to God. And then from the other 8 children, I'm going to do tithing, so I'm going to give 1. So he started going up from Shimon, who was not a firstborn, going down to Benjamin, 8. He started again from Shimon, 9, going down the next one on the line. Who was it? Levi. So he said Levi is dedicated to Hashem. I'm tithing Levi to God, giving Levi to God. So Levi became the tribe. The angel picked up Levi and told Levi and said to God, this Levi is going to be your servant, is going to be dedicated to you. And that's how Levi, the tribe of Levi, become dedicated to God. Okay, what did the tribe of Levi do?
Hi, Rabbi. Sorry I'm late.
Now it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
What was the tribe of Levi? The tribe of Levi were the ones that in the sanctuary, they were dedicated to serve God. they carried the ark, they carried the wood, they carried everything that needed to be carried for the sanctuary, because as we're reading about this week's portion, the ark was carried and the sanctuary was carried, and it went through in the desert from place to place, and every time they picked up from one place, they went to another place. Sometimes they stayed longer, sometimes they stayed shorter. They had to erect the Mishkan, they had to build the Mishkan, and they had to do everything again. And so it was carrying the wood, putting in the wagons, taking it off the wagons, and doing all of that. It took a lot of work. It was very hard. It took a lot of work. And Levi's did this. The tribe of Levi was also in charge on locking the gates of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple, and singing the songs while the sacrifices were brought, and people brought voluntary sacrifices, or the obligations sacrifices. They had to, they were singing, locking the gates. Now, when did the tribe of Levi start doing it? At the age of 25, they started the process and worked. They studied and trained and worked for, trained for about 5 years. And, within the 5 years, they started to do the work. And then you think about it, when did they retire? Which age did they retire? Let's look at what the Torah thinks about retirement. What does the Torah tell us when they had to retire? So we see that they retired at the age of 50. You say, the Torah believes in early retirement. You're 50, you're retired, stop working. That's what the Torah thinks about retirement. No. Not so easy, not so simple. They retired only from the work that they had to do by themselves, to carry and to do the hard work. But it's not that they stopped working. Now they joined the other Levites by assisting them. So they were not carrying the wood themselves anymore, because at the age of 50, your strength, at least back then, were going down. So they switched to do other things. They were locking the gates, they were singing, they were helping load the wagons. So it's not that they actually retired. They just retired from carrying the vessels and the wood themselves, and from also using the heavy instrument, the heavy musical instrument that they were singing with. That's was their retirement. They stopped, they continue working. So they just switch jobs. So there's no such a thing, you're finishing your job and you're retired. As long as a person is able to work, you work. Maybe you change a little bit from the work that you used to a little bit easier work but you continue to work. Not only that, Maimonides tells us that not only did they didn't retire, but it says the retirement at the age of 50 was only in the desert, when they had to carry the woods in the sanctuary from place to place. That was retirement. But with regards to when the Jewish people went to Israel and they had the Beit HaMikdash, and then they didn't have to carry things, they didn't retire at 50. They continued the work of singing and playing the instruments until they felt that they could no longer do it. Somebody didn't have the voice anymore, or somebody was, was doing something, they couldn't do what they were doing anymore. So, not only that, but the Torah tells us that after they retired at the age of 50, they started a new job. Other than assisting the Levites, they transfer from carrying to education. They now educated the younger Levites. So at the age of 50, they changing jobs. They're getting a new job, a new position. And not only they're not stopping and they continue, but they're starting something new. So the Torah tells us that as long as a person could work, a person needs to work. When are you retired? If you're not able to work anymore. And not only that, at the age of 50, they started something new. So you never stop. As long as you could go, you never stop. The whole idea of retirement goes back to the 1880 in Germany, and the idea was that, people can retire so they have time to do other things that they didn't have time to, whether it's study, whether it's family, whether it's rest. But back then, the age of retirement was 60, and the average lifespan was 55, so people never, got their actual retirement. So if you look at the system of retirement in Israel and most of the world, retirement is by age. You get to a certain age. It doesn't make a difference even if you have the strength to be able to do more work and to go on forward and continue and do even more work. No, you continue, you go on. And as long as you have the ability to, in Israel, that's in the United States and Australia. In Israel, it's different. In Israel, it's like, even if you have more, ability to work more, but this is the age, you're retired, you go home. In the United States and Australia, it's different. You have the age of retirement, you could either take the retirement and leave, or you could continue to work, right? With Bader Ginsburg, right? She was a judge until 86, 87. There was a story, there was a nurse in Washington. Her name was Florence Wingy. She was a nurse in a operation room. And she worked for 7 decades. She retired when she was 96 years old at the age, at 2021, and she was 96 years old. And really, she retired when she was 65. She went home for half a year, and then she realized she misses her work and her people that she worked with, and she went back to work for another 31 years. And she was on the go, and she retired in 96. She said, she needed to spend some time with her family. So what the people that said that they should retire at a certain age, regardless whether you're able to work more or not, the idea behind it is that that you should leave the workplace for the younger people. Go do other things and leave the workplace for younger people. But back then, lifespan was 55 years old. Today, to let people go and retired, when they are 65 and they're in the middle of their life, they could go on and do so much more. And they wake up one morning and find themselves at home, not knowing what they're going to do. Not only that, the Torah's approach is the older you get, the wiser you get, the more experience you have. So there's a certain advantage to older people at the workplace than the younger ones. So the Torah's system of retirement is more like the closer to the American system. That not only you continue to work, but you could even start something new, like with the Levites. They started doing education. According to the Torah, if you look at it, it's very interesting. If you look at the rabbis in Israel, the heads of yeshivas, the rabbis, the scholars, they're all older people, and they have more respect. Older rabbis have more respect than the younger ones. They're wiser. They have more experience. They have a much larger picture of things. They've seen so much in their life. There's a story that we read in the Agada every year in Pesach about Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Azariah, and he became the leader when he was 18 years old. But in order he should be respected, he had overnight a long white beard growing to him, so he would look like a wise and older man. So there is an advantage to be older, wiser, more experienced. You know, you're looking at Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron. When did they start the leadership? They started being the leader. Moshe was 80 years old. Aaron was 83 years old. So, so they became, you know, they started the leadership when they were 80 years old, 80 and 83. And today you have rabbis that are, you know, in their 70s, 80s. You know, it's a very good age to lead into, you know, you're wise. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu was 4 years in Egypt. 4 years he was in Midian. It was 80 years. And at 80, that's when he started. You imagine started leading the Jewish people out at the age of 80. There was a story with the king of, the son of Shlomo, the son of King Solomon, King Shlomo HaMelech, Rechavam, when he became the king. He had younger advisors that he hired, and he had older advisors of his father. And the younger advisor told him, listen, you become the king, you got to show that you are in charge. You know, you should instill heavy taxes and new taxes, and everyone should know who's the king now. The older people advise him not to do that and to just be soft and to be nice, like his father was. But he didn't listen to the older advice, he listened to the younger advice, and eventually the kingdom split into two, and he lost a lot. So that's with regards to retirement. What about work? What's the Torah's approach to work? Does the Torah believing in working hard? Or the Torah believes in relaxing and enjoying life? Even if you have the money to relax and enjoy life. So the Torah tells us in Bereshit, in Genesis, the Torah tells us, ויברך אלוקים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוקים לעשות. God blessed the seventh day and made it he made it holy. In it he rested, and he rested on the seventh day from the work that God created to do. Rabbi tells us, what does it mean? God created to do. Should say that God rested from the work that He created. What is He created to do? Shabra Elokim la'asot, to do. So Rabbi tells us to do is to fix it. God created an unfixed world, and He wants us to come into this world and fix it. He wants us to change the world. He wants us to fix the world and make it a better place. One mitzvah at a time, one act at a time. And everything in the passage says in past language. God created, He blessed, He sanctified, He rested. Because we're already in the seventh day. The only word for the future is la'asot, is letaken, is to fix. What is remain to fix after God created the world? God already finished, created, He's rested, it's all good. So what are we saying now? La'asot, to fix. What else does it mean to fix? Rashi said, la'asot letaken. God created an unfinished world, an unfixed world, and He wants to fix it. Like He put Adam in the Garden of Eden to guard it and protect it. So we're not working to live. We are living to work. And the idea of our existence is to be partner with God in the creation, to change the world, to make it a better place. That includes study Torah, it's including work, it's including singing in the Beis HaMikdash, contributing to the spiritual environment of your house. It's interesting how you look at the difference between human being and animal. An animal is created in a way when it's ready. Like a 1-day-old cat has the potential to do what a 5-year-old cat. He's just a little weaker, he has to be stronger. But human being, and anybody born with knowing what he needs to do, what he doesn't need to do, and human being is born and it takes him a year and a half to learn to walk and learn how to walk, and it says Adam Pela Yulad. The human being is born wild. Wild meaning is like if the human is not trained, he's not educated, he's not working on himself, he could be wild. So human being, who is the best of creation, the only creation that is created on walking on 2 legs, and his head is higher than the rest of his body, which symbolizes that the mind controls the heart. Human being was created to fix, to work against our nature, to change ourselves, to work on ourselves. It's not coming natural. She's not expected to be natural. Oh, why do we have to work hard? Why do we have to work on ourselves? Why are we just not waking up in the morning and it just things are easy and nice and smooth? And why sometimes I have to, work on even getting myself out of bed? And why is it so hard to do things in this world? Why can't it just be easier? Why do we have challenges in life? And the answer is because God God brought us here to be a partners with His creation, and it's through work that we get rest. Someone's told me it's better to complain that you have more work than no work. It's work that gives you rest, not rest that give you. I mean, not rest that gives you joy. It's the work that gives you joy and gives you rest. If you're not working, not doing anything, it brings you into weakness, into sickness, God forbid. And you see sometimes people that as long as they work, they're okay. And the moment they stop working, they're retired. Some people just starting going down. Not everybody, but working is good. Just like sport. In the beginning, it's hard. You're breathing, difficult. But then it gets easier. After you do it, it gets easier. Like you don't have the desire to go and do it, and when you start, it's hard, but after that you enjoy it because you worked hard. You really enjoy it. So we were designated to work, and to work hard. It says that Adam la'amal yulad, a person was born to toil. People don't stop working because they are old. People get old because they stop working. So, and that's why the Levi is not retiring in the age of 50. Not only is continuing working, but is even introducing new work, new job. Now he's starting educating his younger Levites. Torah tells a person was born to toil in studying of the Torah, toil in work, and toil in prayers. All these 3 areas of toiling. So we shouldn't complain that we have to toil and we have to work hard. Because that's what we're there for. That's what Hashem created us for. And the Rabbi, when he was celebrating his 70th birthday, the Rabbi asked to establish 71 new institutions. think about it, with everything the Rabbi was doing and accomplishing, at the age of 70, he had time to rest. Not trying to do more. Trying to add, to increase. Why? Because that's the nature of a human being. Human being has the nature of the creator. He wants to create. He wants to achieve a breakthrough. He wants to accomplish. It's not so much even the accomplishment that we enjoy, but it's the breaking through. It's finding new things, getting to new places, and knowing that we can. And that's what we were created for. And the moment we tell ourselves we can't, that's the end of that. Constantly have to realize that God gave us the abilities, and that's what He brought us here to this world for, to toil. And a person has this lack of calmness. He doesn't want to be. We don't want to be calm. We want to be relaxed. Yes, we have to rest. We have to have time. We rest and we're calm. But we always have this nature to create, to do, because that's what God embedded into us. And if we live a life without breaking through to new places, it's becoming a boring life, and then people look for other interesting things, sometimes drugs, alcohol, other things, because something inside them want them to do, to accomplish. So basically, the lesson to us is that we should not be afraid to take upon ourselves new things, new Torah classes that we get together here to study every week, taking a half hour during the day on the computer, leave everything behind, and it's unbelievable. That we shouldn't be afraid of, getting into new projects in our life, and taking upon some new things at work, taking ourselves additional mitzvah, additional prayer. Maybe scary, or maybe something that's uncomfortable, like sport or exercise. We don't want to do it. We may be afraid to start it. But this is what Hashem wants from us. This is why we came here to this world. And that's why he always says, do one more mitzvah, one other thing, always progress in Torah, in prayers, and in work. Don't be afraid to take on new things, new Jewish things on yourself, no mitzvahs. Just conclude with a story. There was Rabbi Schneur Rabinowitz, from the Rabbi of the Western Wall. One of his friends is Jerry Garfstein, who was a senator a Canadian senator for decades. And he received a phone call one day from the Rabbi. He received a phone call from his friend, the senator. He says to him, I'm celebrating my 80th birthday, and I want you to come and participate. The Rabbi said he couldn't participate, he couldn't come from Israel to Canada. So at least give me a blessing, because I am starting a new project, spreading out in the Far East, newspaper in Chinese and Japanese, and just new ventures that require investment of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. It was a very huge investment. And the Rabbi didn't know what to bless him. Like, the Rabbi was like silent. What do you give? What blessing do you give an 80-year-old man who starts a new investment with so much money in? What do you give him? What do you do? So the guy tell him, what do you give him? What do you tell him? So the guy told him, the senator noticed that the Rabbi is like hesitant. And he said, let me tell you something. Throughout my life, every time I celebrated a birthday, I went through another decade, I was not happy. I was like thinking to myself, what did I accomplish? What did I accomplish? My friends accomplished me so much more. What did I accomplish? What am I doing? And when I turned 50, I was like really depressed. I couldn't get out of bed. Like, 50, what am I doing? What am I accomplishing? So my wife told me to go visit the Rabbi. I went to visit the Rabbi. And the Rabbi told me, do you know when the Jewish leaders became leaders? The greatest Jewish leader. Who is the greatest Jewish leader? I said, Moshe. So you know how old Moshe when he was the leader? I said, no. So he was 80 years old. At the age of 80, to start taking such a mission of leading the Jewish people 4 years in the desert into the land of Israel, through the splitting of the sea, through splitting of the sea, through Kriyat Yamsuf, and then as the thing you see, then Sinai, then Israel with all the complaints and all it was not easy to lead the Jewish people. We're not stiff-necked people. We're not easy task. So the Rabbi said to how is a person taking such a mission at the age of 80? Because Moshe didn't look back. He never said, "Oh, this is what I did." He always asked, "What do I have to do?" And as long as a person looking forward and asks, "What do I need to do? What do I still have to do?" You remain younger. You remain young. And he said, the Rabbi's words for me was like a medicine. And since that day on, I saw such blessing in my life. And now I'm celebrating 80, so it's a time for me to do what the Rabbi said 30 years ago when I was 50, that Moshe Rabbeinu started when he was 80. So never think you're too old. Never think you're working too hard. We sent you to this world to work. So try to think to yourself, what else could you do in Torah's life, and not taking another mitzvah, stepping out of your comfort zone, because that will give you the satisfaction that we need when we take on new things, and new commitments to Torah study, to prayers, and at work as well. And may this mitzvah, additional mitzvah that we take, be the mitzvah that lead us to the coming of Mashiach. Speedily nowadays, amen.